he, in a beautiful way, wanted me to have a sexual confidence that he thought I deserved. And sometimes that looked in a way that I felt like was just perpetuating this like objectification and vulnerability, because he didn't want me just to wear like postage stamp size skirts at home. He wanted me to wear postage stamp size skirts to the grocery store.
Farmer's market.
The farmer's market, right. And my grandmother's house. I mean,
But are you saying that you felt a certain kind of pressure?
yes, a ton of pressure
A ton of
throughout
pressure
the marriage that I have
supposedly
supposed
on your behalf,
supposedly and supposed to be on my behalf.
but actually your experience of it was
the
that
opposite.
it's
So that's been insulting,
It's all internal. There's
meaning
meaning it's all on me.
that's the baby. That's him.
What do you think of the move he just made when he said it's all internal?
She's actually just laid out that this is recreating an experience that was traumatic for her throughout her adolescence of being in public and getting unwanted sexual attention.
Mm-hmm.
And he's setting up scenarios where that same thing happens.
Mm-hmm. I noticed a difference in the way she speaks versus how he speaks. So when he talks, he defines reality in very confident tones. So he never says, I feel like. She says, I feel like all the time. And so Annie doesn't say, Mao wanted me to wear a tiny skirt. She says, I feel like Mao wanted me to wear a tiny skirt. So whenever she's describing reality, she describes reality accurately, but she says it as if her description was not trustworthy. And then he comes along and he describes a false reality, but he describes it with so much confidence that it's really easy to believe.
She also goes out of her way to make the point that he means well over and over, in a beautiful way. And he doesn't do the same for her.
Mm. And then there's the whole thing where he leaned back in his seat and looked away while she was talking and made it very clear that he has no concern for this one.
Or that he doesn't take seriously what she's saying.
Yeah. And so now she said that he put pressure on her and he can't handle this. So this is, an implication that he's doing something that's less than perfect and that's going to challenge him. And so he's going to try to get out of it.
That's not what I mean. I mean, you're describing your feelings.
So in Mao's world, all Annie can describe is how she feels, and Mao gets to describe what's real. But no one else gets to describe what's real. Only Mao determines what's real, and no one else gets to talk about anything, including and especially Mao's behavior.
Sugar, I'm not disagreeing with you.
Is he disagreeing with her?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely, 100%. And so this is an example of him turning reality upside down, is he's 100% disagreeing with her, and then he turns around and says, I'm not disagreeing with you. It's really hard to keep up with.
There's also this way that he's amused by her that feels condescending, like you're relating to an indulgent child that's talking about Santa Claus or something. And so it reinforces this thing you were talking about he knows what's real, she doesn't know what's real.
Mm-hmm. So this is a good example of gaslighting, where gaslighting is an overused term, and in this case, it's exactly what he's doing, where she's describing reality, the gaslights are actually being dimmed, and he's saying, you must be crazy, and he's pulling it off pretty elegantly, but he's completely wrong and she's completely right.
Mm-hmm. Well, the one place I think she gets it wrong is that I think she's too generous about his intentions toward her, actually.
Right. She tries to soften it. But when she actually says what he does, you're right that she softens it too much. And so, yeah, I agree with you. In her mind, I think she's right about him. And I think that when she comes out and says it, she doesn't say it as plainly as she could.
Well, I have a picture with.
wait, I didn't hear. Are you disagreeing?
Yeah.
First
No,
time.
disagreeing.
He's saying that.
Dr. Orna should be the one to say whether he disagrees or not, instead of asking him. So Dr. Orna is trying to get him to say that I disagree, maybe, but he's clearly not going to admit that he disagrees with Annie.
Yeah, and Anna's getting worked up here and he's amused. And so this is a dynamic that's working for him and it's not working for her.
It's like a cat playing with a mouse. So Mao is playing with Annie. He's also playing with Dr. Orna here, where he's enjoying this game.
All in my head.
Is that what
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
It's really interesting. Annie comes and says, it's all in my head. He's making it seem like it's all in my head when what Mao says is it's all internal. So it's exactly the same thing. So Annie's tracking him
Exactly,
pretty
yeah.
closely here.
Yep.
Annie's tracking him more closely than Dr. Orna is, which is unfortunate.
Taglo.
I'm not sure.
Okay, what are you saying?
I'm saying there's nothing, right? I'm listening to you describe something. Right? That's what I'm doing. I mean, it's internal in the sense that the wellspring of information is coming out of you. There's not an external basis for me to have an opinion. I'm just listening to you describe your experience. That's it.
Okay. If we got way off the topic of how he feels when I feel upset, I think that this actually brings us right back
Right
there
back.
because we're
Okay,
talking about like
listen.
how you make me feel and you go, that's in your head.
Or
I don't think that's the exact right focus. I don't think Mao's responsible for Annie's feelings. I think Mao's responsible for his behavior. And it's really important to bring it back to what exactly is Mao doing right now and why is it such a problem? If Mao did this and it didn't bother Annie, it would still be a problem. Mao consistently lies and manipulates and condescends and cajoles. And that's a problem regardless of how it makes Annie feel.
So something Annie brought up that I think we talked about in part 2 was that she has difficulty getting Mao to take her experience and perspective as seriously as his own. And we really haven't seen him be willing to do that. And I think that's what she's trying to point out here is that same thing is playing out right now, where he's not just saying that's your perspective and experience, he's devaluing it at the same time to say it's less important and accurate than what I can see.
And there's an extreme difference in importance. So Mao defines reality. Annie just tells these crazy stories that are kind of funny, but not to be taken seriously.
You can't feel that way because I'm such a good husband.
I think I would like to start from a place where we give Mao a little bit more of the benefit of the doubt.
Okay.
I think this is a really, really big mistake on Dr. Orna's part. Giving Mao the benefit of the doubt, you can almost see kind of the smug look of victory on his face here. He's like, whoa, I just won. He doesn't deserve any benefit of doubt here.
Yeah, so I think it's concerning partly because Annie already gives him too much of the benefit of the doubt. That's what comes through when she's saying, you know, in a beautiful way, then he's trying to sexually empower me with these moves. And I try to approach from a more objective place where I'm not assuming ill and I'm not assuming well about what people's intentions are. That I'm just trying to look at the data and see how does this keep showing up. Do I see this person showing concern and investment in their partner's feelings and experience or not? But I don't think it's a virtue to give people unearned benefit of the doubt. I think it's as much a mistake to see things through rose-colored glasses as it is to see things through a pessimistic perspective.
I agree with that. Especially in couples therapy, it's so important to stay close to what's actually happening. In this situation, very difficult to do that, but even more important because of that.
I'm not sure I heard it that way, and I'd like to believe, I mean, I've seen you react empathically, and I'd like to believe that.
I haven't seen Mao react empathically. I'm not sure where she's getting that from.
That's what I'm wondering as well, because I haven't seen it either.
You've got that in you. So
Yeah, look at that. Help you with that. I don't need to earn anything there. I had it. If you can't see it, like, fuck you. And like, if you...
It's a really good example of complete lack of empathy there. So I have it. If you can't see it, fuck you. Zero empathy, zero concern for Annie. And that's how he's been the whole time.
That's such a twist to say, if you can't see how much I care about you, then fuck you. Like, where's the caring? Is it in the room with us?
No, it's definitely not.
You're not being magnanimous. Like,
I'm not being magnanimous.
I
I'm
know you're
trying
not,
to
and
stay
I'm telling you
true
you're
to
not.
truth.
Describe anything you want, but don't ascribe motivations to me. That's just unfair to me.
Okay,
I don't think it's in your head. You didn't make it up, babe. You're telling a story about something. I'm with.
The problem here is that Annie's read of Mao's motivations is relatively accurate, and Mao's description of his own motivations is completely wrong. So Mao's making this move that only I can tell you what's going on inside me, but everything he says about what's going on inside him is completely wrong. And if we allow him that just twists everything upside down, and we're never going to get anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, our motivations come through in our actions and behavior. It's what we do repeatedly shows what we value and what we invest in.
Mm-hmm.
And what is coming through repeatedly in what he says and does in these sessions is he wants to keep Annie in this position that she's in. And he's aware that she's really unhappy there, but he still wants to keep her there.
Mao said in an earlier segment, I just want you to be happy. But as you're saying, you can tell from his behavior that he doesn't actually care about Annie being happy because he consistently treats her in ways that are guaranteed to make her unhappy.
Well, and that he's aware that that's happening. And so he may want something magical where he keeps doing exactly what he's doing, but suddenly she's happy with him. Well, it's not going to happen. But yeah, if you're really invested in another person's happiness, you look at your impact on them and you keep trying to shift how you treat them, what you do and how you talk to them to have a better impact. Short of that, you don't have any foundation to stand on with saying that you care about their happiness.
I can say a word and you could take that word and imagine it. I've brewed some evil concoction, like, fuck you. Like, that's the problem. And you're right. This does exemplify it, but not in the way you imagine, in the way that I imagine. You keep telling the narrative as if I can't meet you where you're at. You're not meeting me where I'm at. All the time, recognizing the distance between us is the distance that I'm not moving.
It's worth pointing out here, once again, that he doesn't hold, the standard he applies to himself doesn't apply to Annie. So he doesn't want Annie to talk about his motivations and desires, but he does want to talk about Annie's motivations and desires. So everything is a one-way street with Mao.
So I'm thinking about why is the pressure going up in this moment? Because it actually is. So he's been able to maintain this really smooth persona through most of this. And that's falling apart right now. So we're seeing more of what Annie sees at home in this moment. I mean, he's probably still trying to hold it in, but he's getting dysregulated. He's talking faster. He's thinking it through less. And I'm trying to think about, like, what set this off. I mean, typically that's someone's moved in close enough. You're starting to worry that you won't be able to get around them and keep things where they are.
I think he was bothered by Dr. Orna talking about his ability for empathy. For whatever reason.
Well, he might know this about himself, because this is one of the things that drew him to Annie in the first place, was that she had emotional capacity that he didn't have. He knew that. And so I think that's actually being highlighted here. And he has a hard time handling that.
The distance between us. If you want to close that distance, start fucking walking toward me. Stop telling me you're over there and I need to just get it because you had bad experiences. Okay, me too. So I'm happy to patiently sit here and listen to everything. And I'm empathetic all the fucking time. That's not a problem. You don't have a problem of lack of empathy in your husband. That's not what you have.
I think we should probably pause it there, because I want to move on to talking about what it would take for Mao to get better and what it would take for Annie to get better. And I think we should start with Mao. What do you think about that?
Okay, sure. Well, why are you so defensive now when you're saying you don't have a problem with a lack of empathy in your husband?
Yeah.
That's where I would start. Like, there's a lot of defensiveness around this idea, okay? We'd have to slow that way down and look at it, because I think he's defensive because it's accurate. And he is panicking because he either doesn't know how or intensely does not want to have to address this, or both. But he actually does lack empathy. That is a
Yeah.
problem. It's been clear throughout this entire process. And if he was going to get better, he'd have to deal with that. And he's framing it in this moment like Annie's just pressuring him to come over to where she is and to accommodate her more. But what we've seen happen over and over here is that Annie accommodates him much, much more. So he'd have to deal with, he's pretty rigid. He's not very flexible with his partner. He's not very supportive or accommodating. There could be ways that he is that don't come through here. But emotionally, it's lacking.
Yeah.
What do you think?
For him to get better, he would have to let go of the position that only Mao knows about Mao. So the position he holds is, I am the only expert on me. And even though there's these other people, including this skilled clinician that I'm working with, the skilled clinician definitely has no idea what I'm really like. And my wife, who's lived with me for years, definitely has no idea what I'm really like. And the only person who knows what I'm really like is me, and everything else is wrong. So if I'm a kind of person who takes that position, I can never change, because I can never allow any outside influence, and any kind of self-deception I have going on is just going to persist forever.
Yeah. Yeah. And so he's sitting here with Dr. Orna, who is a brilliant clinician, and he's not showing any interest in her perspective on him so far. You know, he's not actually looking to her for help, even though he's sitting right here in her office. But the other thing that I see is the double standard, where he's the expert on himself and he's the expert on Annie. And Annie's not the expert on either one of them.
Absolutely. And of the three people in the room, Annie is by far the one who sees Mao the clearest, by a huge degree. And the thing that he can't do that would be really good for him would be to see and acknowledge and allow the fact to exist that Annie sees him much more clearly than he sees himself. And so whenever Mao disagrees with Annie about what's true about Mao, then Annie's usually going to be right and Mao's usually going to be wrong. And if he would allow that perspective in, he could change. For that to actually happen, he would have to probably do some work around his parents.
Yeah, so I agree with you. And tell me why you think that is.
Mao didn't make this behavioral pattern up. So he's seen this behavioral pattern before, probably when he was really young, probably from his parents. It's a pattern that existed in his family before he was born. And he probably underestimates the degree to which at least one of his parents, probably both of his parents, have this similar pattern of denying reality and manipulating reality.
Your parents kind of wire your brain from the start, and you don't get a choice about that. And I look at it like he's got some wiring problems here.
Yeah.
That there's things that are connected that shouldn't be connected. There's things that are not connected that should. If he can go sort some of that out, he would be in a much better position to take himself on.
So I like to think of 5-year-old Mao, cute little Mao, innocent, perfect. This is not his fault. Now, it is his responsibility as an adult to deal with this problem, but it's not purely his fault that he ended up in this situation. It would be good for him to think about what influences did he experience as a 5 and a 6 and a 7-year-old that led him to start to perceive the world this way. And it almost certainly came from the family he grew up in.
Yeah. And so he's got some ideas about like responsibility, whose responsibility things are. Whose responsibility is it to figure out what Mao wants for his birthday when he's dissatisfied year after year? Well, at some point it's his responsibility and he's not taking it on. Or like it's actually a bigger thing. It's not just about his birthday, but he tries to take this position of it's Annie's responsibility to anticipate and provide what Mao wants all the time without him even having to say anything. Well, that's where I'm looking at a wiring problem. Like that's not correct or accurate or true. Adults have responsibility to figure out and ask for what they want, you know? It's not another adult's job to read your mind and discern what you want when you don't even know what you want.
There's a cultural tradition that it's impossible for someone like Mao to change. I don't think that's true. I think it's unlikely, but I think it's possible. If it happens, it usually happens in the context of couples therapy, not individuals therapy, and it happens in couples therapy with an extremely skilled practitioner, and it happens when someone wants it really bad. So we would have to figure out what Mao's motivation to change would be. He doesn't care about any enough to motivate change. Sometimes change is motivated by, I want to have a better sex life. Sometimes it's motivated by, I don't want to get a divorce. Sometimes it's motivated by, I don't want my children to be miserable the way I've been miserable. And maybe there's other motivations, but the amount of work he would have to do to change this brain pattern is immense, and he would have to have enough motivation to do that kind of hard work.
Yeah, I think it's very unlikely that he would change. And I'm looking at a mind that I'm not sure any of those motivations or anything else matters enough to him. Because there's plenty of people where there's not something that would motivate them enough to do what it takes. So I don't know if there's anything here, but I agree with what you laid out as some of the common things that can push somebody to change. Occasionally there's another piece about like your career, that if you're sabotaging your own career, like we saw this with in the Alex versus A-Rod documentary, where he was, a lot of his motivation came from he was burning down his own career.
Yeah.
And so that's another thing that I see occasionally. But right now, that's not what's going on with Mao. He looks completely fine in his life. So if everything's working fine for you, you're not going to change. Like it does take some amount of, I'm running into problems in my own life with how I'm doing things. And that's part of why it's more loving for your partner to stop colluding and accommodating. Because Annie's taking a lot of she's absorbing a lot of the suffering that exists in this dynamic. Like the problems with how Mao is doing things, they're actually being metabolized by Annie, and that's preventing him from feeling the pressure to take this on.
So what would it take for Annie to get better?
She'd have to trust herself more, because she's got a good eye. I mean, she can see a lot. And there's a way that she puts forward a really clear view, but then she doubts herself on it and pulls away from it. So that would be the thing to push yourself on. Can I sort out a solid position and hold on to it under pressure, and understand that Mao's going to put a lot of pressure on her? And it's actually not personal, even though the impact is personal. This is just how he functions. So he would do this with anyone that he was married to. That can help a little bit with holding a solid position, to realize like, this isn't about me. But I think she's got a lot of compassion for him. I think she's pretty fair to him. I think she'd have to start having a problem with what she's doing to herself and what she's doing to him, in a way that, like, I think it would help to take the perspective of it's not actually loving to make it so comfortable for him to keep doing this. And
it's not actually kind or respectful.
No, it's not. And so I think she cares a lot about being like loving and kind and fair to him. And so I think she'd have to look at it that way, that when you try to absorb all of the pressure that rightfully belongs to your partner, that's actually not a very kind move.
So I imagine that Mao will probably not change. Annie will probably leave him. That doesn't solve all of her problems. And so it's important for Annie to do work that goes beyond just leaving Mao. If that is what she decides to do, she needs to figure out why couldn't she tell who Mao was when she met him? So there's a blind spot there. Mao was this way before he ever met Annie. And when Annie met him, she wasn't able to see that he was going to be this kind of a partner.
Yeah, I also think about sorting out her own mind around things like, what is sexual empowerment to her, so that she stops taking on his ideas about it or another person's ideas about it. because he's been really successful in saying, I know how to do things for you. Like, I know what you need here. I'm going to hand you sexual empowerment, and here's how that works. And if she could sort out for herself, like, what actually feels empowering for me, she'd be much more able to say, wearing a teensy tiny skirt to go to the farmer's market or my grandma's house is not it.
Sure. Especially if she's doing it at the behest of her husband when she doesn't want to. So doing something sexual that she doesn't want to do is the antithesis of sexual empowerment.
Yeah, and I think, my guess based on her history and what she's brought up is that that's just not going to be the thing for her. Like to put herself back in a position that was traumatic throughout her entire adolescence of being in public, getting a lot of unwanted sexual attention. Look, there's women out there who do feel empowered wearing like short skirts in public. I don't think that's going to be Annie. And I'm looking about how she actually dresses and presents herself in these sessions, and I'm just thinking, I don't think that's her thing.
I agree with you. I don't think that she would find empowerment or confidence in that way. It would more be in learning to see herself as a powerful and capable person. She's a much stronger person than Mao is, even though in these sessions she comes across looking weak and Mao looks strong. But Mao's strength is entirely performative, and in a way he's borrowing Annie's strength, where Annie is the one who's more capable of connection and kindness and love and courage than Mao is.
I do think Mao is brilliant, and I think that's how he's been able to pull this off so much. And I think part of why he was getting reactive to having his empathy question is that he does do a performative type of empathy. Like, he understands the right words to say, and he'll say them sometimes. And I think it's getting under his skin that I think he goes through a lot of his life this way, where like he knows how something's supposed to look and he can produce it. And I think it's getting under his skin to have someone say, I see through that, because this is like his top strategy in life. And he's very, very good at it. I think he's probably a chameleon. He's probably good at presenting in the ways that are going to give him power and leverage in different settings with different people. And so he's in therapy where empathy is one of the things he's supposed to be demonstrating that he has. And it's bothering him that Annie's saying, no, I don't think so.
It seems to me that Annie has been on a significant path of growth for many years already, based on the things that she tells to Mao. She's thought about these issues. She's framed them in her mind. She's figured out how to describe them. And she softens them more than they should be softened. She doesn't say them as boldly as would be maybe ideal. But considering what she's up against, it's really impressive what she's doing.
I think it's super impressive. I do think it goes beyond softening when she says things like, in a beautiful way, he's trying to sexually empower me. I don't think that's what he's trying to do. I think it's not about her feeling sexually confident. I think it's something else he's doing that's in service of his own sexual interests. He may enjoy the experience of her being in public, sexualized, getting a lot of attention. She doesn't enjoy it, and he may enjoy it. I've worked with couples where that's playing out, and where the husband really likes to see other men kind of ogle his wife, but the wife really doesn't like that.
Do you think Annie could get better?
Oh, yeah. I don't actually worry that much about her getting better. I think she's doing really well. Yeah, I think she can. I think she's well on her way.
I agree. I think she's halfway down the path, and I expect her to have a life filled with light and love. And unfortunately, I don't see Mao being on that path yet. I really do hope he gets on that path, but I don't see him there right now. I don't see any signs of him being willing to look at himself or change his behavior.
Yeah, so that would be key. Like, he's going to have to, he would have to develop some willingness to take in critical feedback and really sit with it and not bat it away. And because he is so smart, which Annie is too, to be fair, they're both very intelligent, but his brain is extremely agile at coming up with a counter argument. So he'd just have to know that about himself and to realize, like, I'm going to be able to talk circles around most people. That's something I know how to do. I'd have to want to stop at that. Like, and it really helps to have somebody work with you who's also pretty good at not letting you get around them. So
Yeah.
there's people that can help a lot with that. But I think it takes both things. You need someone who can do that, and you have to like have a problem with the fact that your brain works this way and be like, okay, I can see I can just talk my way out of most things. I don't want to live my life that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he would have to want something more. So the way he is
Yeah.
right now, he's never going to be able to have a loving long-term relationship. If he has children, he's not going to be able to have a relationship with his children as adults. They're going to react against how he treats them, and he's just going to be kind of sad and lonely, for most of his life. And he can find people who will slide underneath him, as Annie did for many years, but no one will occupy that space for more than a few years, especially as we get older. We get less and less willing to occupy that space of being underneath another person.
Yeah, I think they do have at least one child. I think there's one thing that might matter enough to him, and he brought it up himself. It's why he fell in love with Annie, that he saw that she had this emotional richness, this emotional wealth that he didn't have. And he was like, I didn't even know that was real. So
Yeah.
I think that would be the way in with him. It was incredibly alluring to him, but he'd have to face, I can't marry my way into having that. I can't get it by linking with another person. I actually have to develop this in myself, in my own mind. And that's the only thing that I see so far that might be a way in with him.
Yeah, I do hope that he grows out of this. I would love to see him,
Yeah.
Embrace a life of love and openness, and learn to talk less and listen more.
Yeah. And, I love to see people. I like conflict cases. I love to see people who are really in like a difficult spot take themselves on and do what they can. And I've seen some really big transformations, and I know you have as well. And so,
Yeah.
I don't rule it out with people. Like, even if they come in looking like this, I don't rule out the possibility that they could take themselves on. Some people do.
My personal story is a little bit like Mao's in some ways. And so it's kind of near and dear to my heart that there are ways to help people like Mao and people like me grow out of those patterns of behavior.
Yeah. And with the close-up view of your transformation, I mean, it's been really, really great to see that it's really possible to change a lot about your brain and how you show up and how you relate to other people. And I mean, I've just felt like your warmth and caring just grow and grow and grow year after year. So,
Well, you've played a huge role in that, so thank you. What do you think about? I think this is probably the last time you and I will talk about Annie and Mao, at least for a while. What do you think about taking on some other of Dr. Orna's couples?
that sounds fun. I love watching Dr. Orna work. And I mean, to be clear, like, I think she's an absolutely brilliant practitioner. I really enjoy her approach. We're talking about kind of how we would work with these people, which is through a different lens. But yeah, I think she's wonderful.
I love Dr. Orna also. I especially love her warmth and her kindness and consideration. And I love that she was able to relate to Mao as a human being the entire time with no exceptions. She offered warmth and kindness and respect to him the whole time, which is quite an achievement.
Yes. Yeah.
So good for her.
Yeah, she didn't break contact. Like, she can stay in connection with someone even as they do very difficult things.
Yes. Yeah. It was really good to see. Okay. So in the comments, let us know which couples you would like us to talk about. We're going to keep doing this. I've enjoyed this so much, Catherine. This has been just a delight to talk to you about these couples. This show brings an incredible richness of what real relationships are like into the public eye. It's incredibly valuable. It's so useful for me and Catherine to have something to talk about that's real and to have a real couple to discuss. We work with couples, but we can't discuss the couples we actually work with.
Right.
And so to have Annie and Mao here, and we can talk about Annie and Mao, and they have these very real and very significant relationship challenges, which is what Catherine and I love to talk about. And it's so useful to have a real situation to talk about.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Happy to do it some more.
Okay, so vote for which couples you want us to take on next. Thank you so much for watching. And Catherine, I will see you soon.